Hey guys, my name is Lucy. I'm a student employee at the Brown Family Environmental Center in Gambier, Ohio, but due to the coronavirus pandemic, I am working remotely in New York City. This is my cat. Her name is Bells. Hi, Bells. Getting out of the house and exploring nature is a great way to manage the quarantine blues, and though we might not all be living on a woodsy hillside surrounded by wildflowers and frogs, there's still so many ways you can engage with nature wherever you are. Today we are going to explore the exciting world of a decaying log. From first glance, it might just seem like a boring piece of wood, but taking a closer look at it, you will see that it is an oasis of biodiversity. It is host to an entire active community of interacting organisms that perform some of the most important ecological services and processes in the natural world. So today I'm going to bring you guys with me on a walk into Prospect Park here in Brooklyn, New York, so we can take a closer look at some of the organisms that live and interact with decaying logs, and I will break down the processes that make the decaying log such an important part of the ecosystem and such a luxurious home for these organisms. So yeah, let's go! I found so many cool decaying logs on my walk. This tree might be dead, but that does not mean its role in the natural world is over. In fact, a tree has a life long after it has died. As the tree decays, it is constantly giving back to the living world, providing shelter and nutrients for many different plants, fungi, bacteria, and critters. Okay, so first, let's take a look at the shape of the log and the structure of the bark. So as you can see, there are many cracks and indents in the bark. This loosening happens once the tree dies and allows insects like spiders and their eggs to burrow deep into the wood and make a home there. The middle of the log also rots and hollows out after the tree dies, which provides a safe shelter and a pathway across the wood floor for small critters like chipmunks, mice, and moles to live in or move through. If the hole is big enough, animals like coyotes, bears, and foxes will use the log as their den. This rotting of the wood that creates this shelter for so many organisms is facilitated by a process called decomposition, which is essentially the primary process that makes decaying logs so important. So before we go any further, I'm going to break this down for you. Okay, so once a tree dies and falls in the woods, its nutrients that have been locked up in the tree are recycled back into the soil for other plants and fungi to use. This crucial recycling process is called decomposition and requires an entire community of interacting organisms to unlock these nutrients and return them back into the soil for future use. This process is primarily facilitated by decomposers, which include fungi, certain insects, and bacteria, who receive energy by feeding on dead matter, and as they feed on it, the dead matter is broken down, eventually releasing nutrients like carbon and nitrogen back into the soil for other organisms to use. But decomposers are not the only players in decomposition. The process also requires the help from other organisms that kind of help nudge the process along. So once the tree dies and falls, the structural tissues of the wood very slowly begin to break down. But the tree cannot do this on its own. It requires the aid of a diverse range of microorganisms. So basically, this dead matter sets the stage for what is to come. So after the tree dies, bacteria colonizes the dead wood and helps kick off the decomposition process by secreting enzymes that help break the wood down. Some bacteria can also make the wood more permeable for water, which then softens the wood for other organisms to break down. Or, in some cases, bacteria can make the tree more accessible for fungi, another important decomposer, to grow on the decaying log. Each of these processes establishes the conditions necessary for other organisms to continue decomposing the wood. Fungi also help initiate the process of decomposition. They latch themselves onto the wood, releasing enzymes that break the decaying wood down. As they take up these nutrients, the enzymes continue to loosen the wood, making it easier for other organisms to break it down and enter into the wood to further accelerate the process.
Also, once the fungus dies, the nutrients it took up are released back into the cycle. Lichens, which are this weird composite organism of fungi and algae, also grow on the dead wood and release an acid that breaks the wood down. Some lichens can also fix nitrogen, an essential nutrient for plant and animal growth, so as the lichen dies, they add even more organic nutrients back to the soil.
So many logs also grow a thick coating of moss over its bark. Moss is truly an incredible organism. It basically acts as a sponge, so it absorbs and holds water and then releases it back slowly, creating a humid environment that is very beneficial for the log microhabitat. This moss keeps the log damp, so fungi and scavengers can break the log down even more effectively, which helps further facilitate decomposition.
So this loosening of the wood allows access to invertebrates like millipedes, termites, pillbugs, and carpenter ants who feed on and burrow into the wood, which further breaks it down, while also simultaneously creating more cracks and holes for other insects to burrow into. Eventually, the wood has broken down so much that the middle begins to rot and hollow out. This provides shelter for small critters like chipmunks and squirrels, who further aid in the breakdown of the wood as they burrow into it.
Larger insects like centipedes and salamanders will also enter into the microhabitat in pursuit of prey, creating a food chain that passes essential nutrients on to other organisms, which eventually get recycled back into the earth once they die.
The softened and damp wood creates the perfect conditions for the growth of vascular plants like ivy and ferns, which further break down the wood as they grow, and also provide an appealing shelter for many different insects and critters.
These organisms attract other predators like woodpeckers, who will continue to break down the wood as they peck at the bark in search of prey. This series of events will continue to occur until the log is completely decayed, which, due to the tree's very thick and sturdy tissue, can take anywhere from 50 to over 100 years, depending on the tree's structure and its ecosystem. But eventually, all of the tree's nutrients will be replenished back into the soil, creating a nutrient-rich forest or wood floor that other organisms will make great use of, starting the cycle all over again. So, as you can see, decomposition is an incredible and complex process that is emblematic of the ways that organisms work together in constant reciprocity to ensure their health and survival. It's difficult to fathom how such a seemingly simple piece of wood is actually home to thousands of complex interacting organisms and plays such an integral role in maintaining the health of the ecosystem. But it just goes to show how easy it is to miss all of the natural wonders going on around us if we aren't looking for them or don't know what to look for. So I hope next time you go on a walk outside, you might feel a little more at ease to know that the natural world is still constantly moving together in all these brilliant, invisible ways,